I just want to spend 10 seconds explaining what SDL is trying to do. I don't want to give you an example of problems that we try and solve, and I'm hoping that will give you an idea of how we have adopted this approach on our business process outsourcing. So if I just spend 10 seconds telling you what SDL is trying to do. SDL sees language as tightly integrated with all aspects of content creation, content management, and content delivery. That's not earth-shattering. Everyone else has the same view. We are trying to develop a set of products that integrate language tightly into that supply chain. In effect, we're trying to create a platform, technology stack if you like, for multilingual communication. Now that's took me 10 seconds to say. In reality, that's time-consuming and it's a challenging task. One of those challenges is that in 2010 we will spend about $15 million R&D following that strategy. Now, just to give you an example of why and to justify the model for that. I don't often get let out of the office to talk at these conferences, but I've really enjoyed coming to see what people are doing. It's gratifying to see that some of the people in this room are working on the same problems we do, which is great. I think one of the things I don't like about conferences is I tend to watch lots of presentations by talented people. They're very slick presentations, and I go away thinking, am I the only one who's got problems in this industry? And of course, the reality is, of course, that we all struggle at times to do what we do. And although I can't do slick, but what I can do is talk to you very openly and honestly about the problems I face doing technology at SDL, the problems that I know our clients face. And I'm quite open to talk, not today obviously, but quite open to talk about how SDL goes about trying to solve those problems. But if in that spirit of honesty, if I take TMS for example, there was a lot of talk on TMS yesterday. SDL makes no money whatsoever on TMS solutions. That product line, we lose a sack of cash on that. Now, we still invest on it because we have hundreds of those TMS solutions with clients, but we invest in it because you want that investment, and also because we see it as an integral part of our supply chain solution. So it's key for us to continue investing. Now, if we're going to continue investing, then clearly we see the investment as important for the industry, we see it's important for SDL, but we want to make sure if we're going to continue investing, we're going to get a way to refund that investment or fund that investment. And so we see this as very important for us in terms of the model we follow. The other thing about TMS is and this is an interesting aspect, if I take 100 of our TMS solutions, and this is only a slight exaggeration, I will show you 100 different solutions. All of the corporates in this room do translation very, very differently. If you all did it the same way, it'd be a wonderful world and you'd have very cheap products. But you don't. You like to customize, you like to integrate. Now, quite rightly, you'd say to me, well, Keith, we're paying you to solve our problems. And so that's correct. And so we're willing to do all that. But I think that the point I'm making is that the kind of model that we're following is certainly dictated to by the way you do your work as well. And so coming round to why we do the TBO model and how open we are, are we open source? No, we're not open source. We're not going to put our source code on the internet anytime soon. The practicalities of being a public limited company floated on the stock market mean that investors, as well as wanting to see profit and revenue growth, they want to see intellectual property owned by the company, they want to see patent portfolios owned by the company. And putting things open source, I have no idea what that means in terms of that stuff. In terms of SDKs, APIs, again, being honest with everyone in the room, we were a bit slow in kind of getting all of this stuff out, but we put a lot of effort in terms of APIs, SDKs. we've taken it a lot further than that now. We saw a long time ago that there's no way that SDL can develop all the functionality that our clients are requesting in the products. And so not only do we have SDKs and APIs to allow you to customize and integrate, we want to actually give you a platform developing and extending the products yourself, even building a business around that if you want to sell your extensions to the products later on. So that's very important for us, and that's why we go the TBO route. Standards as well. We're very into standards. We sit on standards committees. We want to invest in standards. And I think the issue for the people in this room is that while we're very keen to do standards, there's a limit to how many standards people can get onto a roadmap. And so you need to take that into account. But standards, very important. We see the benefits of XLIF TMS. DITA, fastest growing standard, really important. And so, yes, we're very focused on all that. But that's our model. We want to invest. We want to continue to invest. But we feel if we can sell products and give value to people, then we don't see a problem with charging a fee rather than doing fee. So that's how we've come about with the model.
Thank you, Keith. What I hear you saying is we listen to our customers. All of our customers do translation differently, and our business process outsourcing approach best fits the customer's requirements because they all have different requirements.
Yeah. I think the other important thing to say is that all those things are happening now. Whether they're going to be the same in a few years' time, I have no idea. Yeah. Things change. I can't predict the future. We can look at trends. We can see where people are going, and we make a case for the roadmap to address client needs. But things might change.
First there was SDL and many others, and then you came. When was it exactly when you started WeLocalize?
1997.
1997, so you're pretty late, actually, given that localization started in the mid-'80s. You looked at this space, at this market. You decided to do it differently, not listen to your customers. What is your approach?
Well, let me start with the things that I think we have actually in common with SDL, and I think that all of us in the room have in common. The world is changing faster than our industry is changing right now. End users are demanding information, applications, entertainment, more and more rich media, and they're demanding it on any device, in any language, any time, anywhere in the world, and on an on-demand basis. That has massive implications for our industry. In an industry that, true, I'm not as long in the industry as others, and I came up in the industry as the project-based world was really starting to take hold. But the project-based way of doing work will not keep up with this change in demand out in the marketplace. Now that change is exciting, and I'm very excited by it and very optimistic by where it's going because it creates opportunity. And I see two opportunities developing as business models. On the one hand, we have what Keith just described. And the way I refer to that is a walled garden BPO model, where you put your resources into that garden, and that works for many companies because they are willing to put perhaps all or most of their eggs in one basket. So that's one model. The other model I describe as a much more collaborative, interoperability-based model for clients who are looking for multi-vendor solutions, data exchange and transfer across systems, the interoperability supporting that data exchange across the systems. And with that, I argue that you're going to get greater flexibility, greater freedom of choice, and greater efficiency in the supply chain. And that's the model that we are building our company around.
Keith, what do you think? Is there any, does that make sense?
Yep. I mean, eventually, obviously, SDL is intending to link the supply chain online. Smith is correct. People will move online. You'll see that people will adopt strategies for I think eventually there will be this flexibility for people to share assets.
Yeah.
Both corporations, LSPs, freelancers, there'll be the ability for them to share assets in a repository. There can be private repositories, and people will be able to get the services they require from these repositories. So Smith's right, things will change. People will demand more flexibility and services for things. I think along with that, there was a lot of interesting talk yesterday about people wanting to connect systems up, not just server-based TMS systems to the desktop, but server to server. We talk a lot about standards whereby we can exchange data, but if you're going to talk to lots of services or lots of servers, you need strategies and standards for being able to do authentication, authorization. All of that is being considered by SDL. It's complicated stuff, but we're working on that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And Smith, you must encounter a lot of clashes in your day-to-day life where you meet the same customers as SDL is meeting, and they all have different requirements and systems in place where your vision doesn't really match completely. So you really have to work on different levels, I guess.
Well, here's what I hear from both clients and other companies, other MLBs. First of all, I applaud SDL for the strategy that they have taken. It has been very successful, and it's a very strong and a very good company, especially their purchase of Trados. Let me give you an analogy. At the start of the last century, there was a mad dash to build railroads across this country. And whoever could do it first was going to get an enormous advantage because all of the freight that was going to move on those railroads once they were in place had to go and had to pay the owner of those tracks. So understand that with the purchase of Trados, given that Trados is still the predominant tool used by the most important and the broadest resource in our supply chain, translators,